You have the time?
2:01.
Okay, it is 1 minute past 2 on Monday, April 8th, and I'm calling the regular Resources and Infrastructure Committee meeting to order. I have a quorum. We're going to adjust the agenda a little bit because we do have someone here on Zoom from Hawaii.
No, not from Hawaii.
No, he's not in Hawaii.
No.
Excuse me. There's
Once he's
one.
there, I don't know about it. No,
Okay.
he's not Hawaii. That's Dan Turner. Hawaii.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to start with agenda item 4A, which is to receive a presentation on the cogeneration options for Cambria. And I'm going to have Mr. Pearson introduce the item.
Great. Was brought to our attention, that's following from, the U.S. Forest Service. Met with Dan Turner of the Fire Safe Council, Slow Fire Safe Council, and expressed an interest in, possibly seeing if Cambria was interested in a, cogeneration system that would take care of a lot of the chips that Fire Safe Council is producing and all of these fuel reduction projects. And at the same time sequester that carbon properly and provide some electrical supply for the district. So I arranged for Mr. DiPasquale to be here at the meeting today. I assume he is. And give us kind of an overview of what his idea was, and hopefully the all power cogen guy would also come. And if he was unable to, I could kind of fill in as to what they were talking about doing, so.
Okay, so do you want to introduce Mr. DiPasquale?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it's an informal meeting. I think Jim could go ahead and give us a little background on himself and then explain what he thinks he might be able to help us.
Okay, Mr. DiPasquale, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So my name is Jim DiPasquale. I'm with the Forest Services Regional Office. I work in a program called Wood and Biomass Utilization. And the goal of the Forest Service Utilization Program is to retain and develop wood processing infrastructure in California. So generally speaking, it's to increase utilization of wood that's coming off of our forests. Most of this material is nowadays coming through as fuels reduction work. So yeah, when I met Dave Turner this summer, he had discussed that several years ago, there was some discussions about putting in a cogen facility that would take the material from the thinning operations that are happening in the area. And I mentioned that the Forest Service has some grant programs that specifically support this type of work. So, you know, we have what's called a Wood Innovation Grant, and it offers up to $300,000 to support a project like the one that you're describing, I'm sorry, like the one that Dave was describing. And so, you know, what I guess I was hoping to get out of this call was to see if this is still a project that is in development, that there's still an opportunity to move something like this forward. And if there is, I'd be happy to work with you all to try to add some funding to help support the project.
Okay,
All right, so as the literature that was attached to the agenda indicates, what All Power Systems does is they make these little self-contained units and basically take the wood chips, burn them at very high temperatures and produce carbon, which is basically sequestered carbon, and you could actually sell that stuff. And high temperature gas that then goes through a generator and produces electricity. So they are interested, they finally started making some of these things, and they are interested in possibly doing one of these here. The logistics and everything point to having it at the wastewater treatment plant, because that would be the best place to utilize the electricity. And they also have a little bit of room there to store some chips, okay? So this would be a way to take the chips that are being, produced by all the fuel reduction going on. Okay, and also just by the chipping that goes on, if you haven't noticed, in our community on a daily basis by at least 2, if not 5 different companies, right? They're taking it off and putting it somewhere, and it's not getting sequestered. This would actually bring it to wastewater treatment plant. They take it, put it into the hopper would then run the machine for 24 hours. So there would be some initial cost maybe to the district to, clear an area and prep an area. Then we would get the cogen people to put it on there, and then following that, there'd be a little bit of continuing maintenance, probably, on, actually scooping up and the chips and putting them into the hopper and stuff. So I think it's something worthwhile to look at. I'm not, advocating that this be done, but I do think this is something that Jim did indicate that they have other assistants that might be worthwhile for CSD to look at also. So even if you don't look at this, I think they might have some other programs that would help us get rid of some of our chips and stuff, so.
Okay, and this would, everything that went into it would have to be reduced to wood chips.
Yeah.
So it's just mainly for all the green waste,
Yeah, they don't want green waste.
I meant
They only want wood chips
okay,
for their cogen facility, yeah.
okay, so, Mr. East Pasquale said that there's a grant that could fund possibly up to $300,000, but what is the total cost? What would be left beyond the $300,000? What is the cost of actually getting this unit?
Yeah, we would have to talk to All Power Systems. I was hoping that they would show up today. They aren't. I
I don't know who Regina Larson is. I think that's a member of the public, but don't see any hand.
Yeah, be a Mr. Liu, Liu. No, okay.
No.
So I think the idea would be find out how much electrical power you use. Is PG&E interested? Okay, and then get that information to All Power and let them come up with a proposal that would say, okay, you need X amount of electricity 24 hours a day. This is how much, this unit would provide to cover that, okay?
And I'm assuming we could get demand offset too.
Right.
Be kind of like solar.
Yeah.
Just using it at the time, point of use, you're using it for,
Exactly.
it looks like in here they have battery storage as well.
Yes, they have that available, okay, so that if you use extra during one time or another, you use more during the day, obviously, than you do at night, so possibly using the battery. Also, talking to PG&E, who you're dealing with currently, maybe they would buy some of it back. It might be one of those facilities that they could actually pay you for what your excess. I think that needs to be discovered before you'll be able to get a cost proposal from All Power Systems on exactly what they would want to provide.
I got a question.
How big is it?
What are you burning these wood chips with? Or were you starting it with like, liquid natural gas? Are you using natural gas or
Probably.
propane?
Probably natural gas or propane, yes, I'm not sure. I can't answer that question.
I got a couple.
They're using fossil fuels to propel this thing or to, generate, get this thing generated,
To get it going.
to get it going, and then after that,
After that, it's the gas produced by the burning of the.
yeah, so then it sort of runs itself.
So, yeah, so. that's right.
So, got a quick question, or a quick statement. Right now with PFAS, they're trying to develop a regional solution to PFAS in our biosolids. So there is a countywide plan for a regional peristaltic or a pyrostaltic burner that will burn biosolids, and some of that will also be burning possibly wood chips and biomass in itself to aid in that program. So that's being driven by San Luis Obispo and Paso Robles. We've been doing meetings on that for several months now. So that's possibly in the pipeline and as a resolution to our PFAS problem in our biosites, which could possibly stop us from land applying any of our biosolids in the Central Valley where we send it now. The other thing is there's a biodigester in San Luis Obispo, and they are hunting for biomass as we speak. I mean, you gotta look at the offset of the fuel, for shipping it down to San Luis Obispo and developing it ourselves on a smaller scale.
Mhm.
And so those are two of the items that are happening right now and that might negate our outlay of expenditures to build this system.
Okay, does anybody else on the committee have any questions before I go to the public?
Yeah, what's the status of our chips now? How many chips do we have? How difficult is it to get rid of them as opposed to laying them out on Fiscalini Ranch or something like that? What's the status of it?
You know, I'd probably defer to David Aguirre for that.
Okay,
I know our assets are on a large piece of the property here for utilities. So all the chipping and shredding that's done are then again used internally at those
Mhm.
locations. I could see the alternative is this going to provide power for us would be beneficial, but right now, yeah, we're just land applying and reusing.
okay.
Yeah, and
Although I think some people do appreciate the land applying. I mean, there's probably some demand for the chips right now.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
and be a trade-off there. Okay.
It does, it helps us keep weeds down.
Yeah.
It's actually a good weed deterrent and
We
other
need
things like
6
that.
inch chips for mulching,
That's
provide mulching.
organic material.
Okay,
It's
anybody?
also it's my understanding that when, during the life of the tree, it absorbs so much CO2, but when it dies and it's been cut down, it releases that CO2. So maybe we could mitigate that,
This is something that members of the public can take chips to put in there too.
Right, yeah.
And do we have room at the wastewater treatment plant for something like this?
We've got a pretty good footprint there and I'm sure we can come up with something. So yeah, absolutely.
And do we know if this company has a unit that we can go and look at if we want to?
Yes,
Okay,
where are they?
it's probably an experimental unit, not by Berkeley.
I didn't hear the last part.
Yeah,
I think they're in the Berkeley area.
Berkeley area. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Dudzik, did you have your hand up?
Oh, no, but I probably would have.
Oh.
Yeah, one of the advantages of this over solar, for example, is that it's dispatchable potentially, which for PG&E could be a big advantage, and for you, your perspective, from a negotiating point of view, instead of getting power when everybody else is producing solar power, you can produce it when they might need it. So there might even be an option for them to be able to dispatch it. You could give them the option to do that. It's part of the discussion. So there's some flexibility in there when you get into the, assuming you get to that point with PG&E.
Much smaller footprint than solar
Correct.
and photovoltaic as well.
For 80 kilowatts, yeah.
Okay, so, I do have some written questions from a member of the public. Ms. Heinrichs asks, will this require a half a ton of waste per day to offset the costs of the unit, of running the unit? Do we have any idea?
I don't know exactly how much it's gonna. be.
Okay.
To the truth.
And is this,
Depends on the size of the unit.
is this technology new compared to the units that we investigated in 2016 and 17?
Yes,
It did, okay.
it's updated.
You already answered on where we might be able to see it operating. And she wanted to know if we had enough, to feed it to make it worthwhile.
Yes, Fire State Council by itself says they have enough. What they do right now is up on Covell Ranch. When they do a lot of chipping, they spread it on the forest floor. Well, they'd rather not do that because it, it takes away from the natural vegetation coming through and that kind of thing. So they'd rather take it to a facility like this and have it sequestered. Okay,
Okay,
and so, Dan said that, the next foreseeable future, they could provide enough for this unit all by themselves without the town and the CCSD chipping that's done on a regular basis too.
okay. The CCSD does have to agree to doing this though, since it's going on CCSD property. Yeah, Mr. Dudzik.
One more
Subject.
thought. Thank you.
Dudzik.
I apologize for the hoarseness. There are other municipalities that are also looking at this very same thing. Particularly in the Sacramento foothills, for example, where all the fire hazards have been, municipalities are looking at ways to utilize, to cooperate with fire districts and the Forest Service to utilize this, and to enhance that program. At the same time, getting closer to net zero carbon there. Plans.
Does any member of the public have a question that is on Zoom? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, it sounds like we need a bit more investigation on this and possibly have the person from All Power Labs come back.
Yeah. I think it would be beneficial to talk to PG&E
Okay,
and then also the guy from All Power Labs and maybe that happened back at this again.
okay.
Would think the Air Resources Board would be someone you'd want to talk to too.
Yes,
Yeah, of course.
You won't have a choice.
Yeah.
okay. Anyone else have any other questions?
I have one. Jim, did you say that there was another program that we might be interested in?
Yeah, so there are several programs that provide funding to these kind of projects. One in particular, so there is another, I see. The other program that I mentioned is that the Forest Service has something called a Wood Energy Technical Assistance Team. And so what that team does, it's a national team and it's a free service, but it will help you decide which technology or what size technology is appropriate for the project that you want to have. So if you weren't set on All Power Labs as the provider of the equipment and the technology, this Wood Energy Technical Assistance Team would help you understand, based off of the amount of feedstock that you think you have from your fuels work, what might be the most appropriate use of that material in your specific case. So if you have, 1,000 tons a week and you want to take it to this place that's close, you know, they can help you determine what size capacity you might need. And then in that same regard, depending on the volume of material, you might not have excess to sell back to the grid, which would be, it's sometimes a lot of extra work working with PG&E and the interconnection. And it might just be worth it to use the power at that municipal facility already. So, you know, just wanted to take a step back and say the reason that we started talking about this project to begin with was the waste that was being produced from the fuel thinning. As was just mentioned, there's more chips being produced than we want to necessarily put back onto the landscape. There's a limit to how much we can put there before we're you know, suffocating regrowth. So there is some material that would be best served. The forest would be best served by removing some of that material, and then, you know, finding a worthwhile use for it to produce electricity that we need anyway to run these facilities. It is just a good option. So if there's an interest in you know, working with the Forest Service's Wood Energy Technical Assistance Team, you know, David has my contact information, and I'd be happy to make an introduction if that's something that you want to do down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that might be another first step, right? Is to have that team come and look at what we've got. And then they can say, yeah, all power is the best idea, and we can go from there. So maybe that's what we do next.
Okay. Do we want to bring this back to the committee for some more discussion on how to move forward with doing all this research next month?
You know, I think it's something that we should probably research internally and then bring back as like
Okay.
a program, like daily operational hours. What's the CapEx cost
Okay,
of operation annually? You know, how many employees does it take to operate? What's the permitting cost?
yeah,
You know, and how much juice do we have to squeeze out of this and what is, but I think it's beneficial. I think this kind of fits into our climate action plan
I think so.
as well too. So it's very timely in that
Yeah.
matter.
So too.
So yeah, I think I'd like to kind of put together a more finished, detailed project and then present it. If I think that's appropriate.
I've got one quick question. Is there a community similar to ours, Dave, or at least some population density that might be being done in right now that we might reference?
I didn't see anything on their website in the United States. They have these installed overseas at some areas, but I can ask about that from all that on.
So Cambria could be the first, is what you're saying.
Mr. Hujic.
A last thought on that same note, so I would think that, the Wood Energy Technical Assistance Team might also be able to say, here's who's already come to us and here's how far down the road they are.
Okay. Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you, Mr. DePasquale, for bringing
Yeah,
this
thank
to us. And thank you, Mr. Pearson.
Dave.
It's all very good information and something to look into. And definitely would help with our climate action
Yes.
plan. Yes. Okay. Going back to our agenda, next would be my chair report. And I would like to announce that this is our committee member, Julie Amadei's last meeting with us here at R&I. Director Thomas, who's sitting over there in the corner, has poached her away from us. For the pros committee, and I think the pros committee is very, very fortunate to get Miss Amadei because of her enthusiasm in finding recreation for our community and especially for the youth of our community. I would like to say it has been an absolute pleasure having, I'm gonna cry. An absolute pleasure to have Ms. Amadei on the board with me. This is the first time since 2018 that I have been on the R&I committee that I've actually had another lady on the committee with me. And as we all know, men and women think differently. So I really appreciated that. in honor of Miss Amadei's last day. We have coffee and cookies if anybody would like to help themselves to them.
Thank you.
And I'm asking Miss Amadei to please not be a stranger. She's welcome to continue to come to the R&I meetings as a member of the public and give input as she deems feasible. And I also want to thank her for all of the work that she has done along with committee member Meeks on our climate action plan research. You will be getting a report from them here in just a little bit as part of this agenda packet. So again, thank you so much, and you will be missed, and congratulations to Director Thomas for filling the vacancy with a really wonderful person who will be a real asset to PROS.
Will we be advertising for an open position?
Yes,
on this
it
committee?
will be on the agenda on June 13th, I believe.
Okay.
Is it June 13th?
Yes.
To take applications, and then it will be on the first meeting in July to choose a person to fill the vacancy. Okay, ad hoc subcommittee reports. We know that we are going to be having a report as an agenda item on the climate action plan. Do we have any kind of a update at all on the solar panels? When do you think you'll be able to present something to the solar hydro panels, whatever they're called?
Yeah, he was supposed to have had a proposal or a plan sort of proposed by now, but they've had several very large projects going off somewhere I think in Europe. And so it's strained their staff. So he asked for another week. I forward you his email. So here we are. So I will be gone in June, most of June on vacation. So I have to be July.
Okay, so we'll put it on the agenda for July, and then you let me know ahead of time whether we're going to be ready or not.
Yeah, well, as soon as I get it, I'll forward it to you and probably Jim Green too as well.
Okay,
And yeah, you guys, we can kick it around and Mr. McCallum.
okay. Mr. Williams, where are we on the magnetic survey?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm behind on that one. I've been out of town, and so I still have to get together with Mr. Green and talk about what sites we want to look at there, map out the sites that we can look at.
Okay.
That's the next step. Yeah.
So do we want to aim for July, possibly? We have a
Let's wait
city,
for July. That's a great idea. We will have a great agenda for July. Yeah.
yes, because right now we have a pretty full agenda for June.
Okay.
Okay. Were there any other ad hoc committee reports? Can you give us an update on the grant process?
Yeah, so that process, the grant was postponed, the deadline was postponed until June 2nd. And so I'm working through the grant specs. There's several different areas that have points assigned, so I'm just tackling each one of those topics as thoroughly as I can. I can't believe I gave an update last time, but we're targeting some type of a grant that will support evacuation route hardening and hiring someone to do an overall survey district-wide on some of our options, potentials.
When you say evacuation route hardening, you want to explain that to me? Yeah.
Road width.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, what is our road width? Is there anything that we can do with the roads to make them a little bit wider?
Got it.
Target congestion routes. I mean, we know about Lodge Hill and that area there, but other areas within the district that could be improved or any other options.
Okay.
So ways that we can, shore up our evacuation routes.
Great.
Okay, so I know that the grant does not cover actual construction of anything, so this is for a consultant.
Consultant, I mean, they can give us some ideas on what we could do,
And this would be appropriate for the grant because this evacuation issue is so urgent because of climate change and okay. Okay, so we should qualify.
Well, it crossed the line on the scope. In other words, they've gotten back to you, right? On it qualifying as far as
It
topic.
meets, the topic meets, there's initial scope where we think about the Betts Hall perhaps becoming an evacuation center, but it doesn't really meet the specs of evacuation center. The kitchen is one, there's other areas, the amount of power outlets, heating, those types of things. And so when we submitted that for technical support, they let us know that engineering costs, construction costs are not covered under the grant. So now we're going for a more of a consultant route on our evacuation costs, which doesn't qualify. Doesn't mean necessarily that we'll get it, but we're gonna work our hardest.
Okay. Okay, does anybody have any questions on the ad hoc subcommittee reports? Seeing none, and we only have one attendee, and I don't see a hand up. So thank you. Moving on to committee member communications. This is an opportunity for any of the committee members to tell us about anything that they have been doing that they think would be benefit of the ad hoc of the R&I committee to hear. Anyone? No? Okay. Utility managers report, Mr. Green and company, or on your own?
Thank you, Chair Dean. Quite a few projects out there. We've had quite a few updates lately. We'll start with one that's complete, and that's the charger out front. It's fully operational. I think they've been charging since Friday afternoon when we went online. Painting striping is completed. Program manager Reaper did notice some areas we need a larger handicap sign out front and then an EV charging on both sides. So we got a little bit of finished work there, but for the most part, it's fully operational and moved and in its proper location.
We got the Legions area restriped and back to where it should be. And I talked to David Ellers, Mr. Ellers, and he's super excited and thankful, and kudos to the team.
And I just add, it took 2 years. And so I just want the public to give this board and our general manager some credit that it got done. So that's a check mark. That's a good thing. We need more check marks.
For complete, yes. Not to do, but yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, full credit.
Secondly, skate park project, our section 106, the location area scope, what they're calling a area of potential effect, right? The ape, was largened, from a little half mile area to 2 square miles. So that took some additional, environmental or permitting work. So the project transmittal letter and areas of potential effects mapping was completed and submitted on May 7th for that. So we're progressing right along there. We will be putting out an RFP for, Tristan, why don't you take it away on the actual installation of the bathroom and the park?
Yes, so bathroom building is estimated to, we're gonna try to get it in or to us by the end of January 2025.
For skate park.
For the skate park.
Sorry, we're still in skate
We're
park.
still in skate park.
Yep.
We're still in skate park. Right, those bathrooms are so easy to get confused.
They are.
5 or 6 discussions.
There's a lot of parallels in the restroom project and that.
So for the skate park, we're gonna have a staff meeting of this on the 22nd to discuss this further. In terms of our options for construction and design and how those two parts are gonna piece together, and that's what I'll say on this at this time.
We're trying to take what we didn't know on the Fiscalini restroom project and kind of chalk that up as you study history, so you don't repeat it and go forward, hopefully with a little more seamless on the skate park installation there. Getting to the restroom here, we have got some delays from the manufacturing. We won't be receiving it. We won't be putting a Christmas bow tie on it. It'll be probably late January. So we'll be looking to break ground and do site preparation there in mid-January, which is the wet season. So there might be some potential delays. Even during El Nino here, we had a pretty dry last half of January and the year prior. So we'll see if we have that luck again when it comes to breaking ground, doing site preparation and installation there. But look for a January 2025 install date for the restroom. And that again, for the ranch restroom, for the East-West Ranch restroom. And again, that's just kind of a manufacturing or fabrication delay. I guess the public restroom company has had an onslaught of orders and so forth. So
can any of the infrastructure for this restroom be done before wet season comes so that it's ready for the restroom to be locked down?
all the infrastructure and plumbing will be put in once the directions in place, rather.
Oh,
Yeah.
after the
Yeah.
restrooms. in
Yeah,
place.
you don't want to trench and then have that fall in or cover up any wastewater pipes with mud or anything that might be exposed and not plumbed and hooked up
So you
correctly.
can't run the pipes and cover it back up and put the pad in until the restrooms here.
We'll do that all in one disturbance time.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's get on to the San Simeon, transmission and, wastewater treated effluent line. We had a very productive meeting with State Parks, last week. As we've kind of thought after our first meeting, they really like that fourth alternative. That fourth alternative gets us completely out of that natural preserve, which is kind of an enhanced, nature preserve there. That's pretty much a no-go, a non-starter for State Parks. Even with directional drilling and going underneath it, they're really not super excited about any of those other three alternatives. So we're hoping that this aligns with Caltrans and they'll give us some easement area, an encroachment area outside of their easement. We're hoping they work with us. We have State Parks fully backing us and hoping, or kind of providing us letters of recommendation to Caltrans on why it needs to be here. So
Would you remind me which one the fourth alternative was?
that was along Highway
That's
One.
along Highway
So
1.
basically,
The third
yeah.
alternative was the less
Yep.
expensive, faster.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
that was the one we were gonna basically create a new easement about
Yeah.
25, 50 feet outside of our old easement where we're abandoning those lines, and we're gonna go directly to Van Gordon Road basically
Exactly.
and make our tie-in there.
But
It was
State Parks would rather us do a.
Right, they don't want us to go under it, in it, over it, anywhere, anymore.
Okay.
So we were still looking at doing the drill, right?
But yes, yeah, that we'll have probably two, operational bore pits. One of them being in the day use area at Washburn there. So we'll kind of come straight from Exotic Gardens along that approach on Highway 1, cut across Washburn day use area, where we'll have an installation pit. And then we'll then shoot over to Van Gordon. And, they agree with us. We want our infrastructure off that bridge
Yeah.
and they'd appreciate that as well.
Sure.
So, we were definitely in, agreement on that. Fortunately, with the, that fourth alternative, that gets us outside of the natural preserve, which State Parks really like. So if they do that, if we were to go inside that nature preserve, it has to go to Sacramento. So that's several months of State Parks reviewing that and potentially, declining that. So we could get, another quarter of a year, another 90 days down the road and then say absolutely no, which puts us a lot farther and potentially out of the season. Remember, we want to break ground by June 1st, 2025. So that would put us kind of out of the season then, closer to like the wetter months of the year where they could decline that. So, but the kind of the bonus here with going through alternative 4 is we could, and this is all through, State Parks providing us this, they're gonna write us letters of recommendation for CEQA. Basically would qualify us for a CEQA notice of exemption under a categorical exemption, section 15303. So this could potentially eliminate or do away with all federal review and, not just a mitigated, neg deck, sorry, we just used to use in terms, not full terms here, but that notice exemption would save us months of permitting and like tens of thousands of dollars in permitting costs to do this. So, as much as we didn't like that alternative 4, it is a couple $100,000 more to open trench cut and put some of those things in along there. If we can play nice with the neighbors and, save some money on some permitting costs and so forth. And ultimately, it's probably our only option here. So,
I think our only objection at the time we discussed it for that option was not knowing what utilities were already in that area that we would have to go past and what the, what was underneath it as far as, rock and all of that kind of stuff.
right.
All of the alternatives that you brought forward to us were acceptable. That one was just the trickiest when it came to those things.
There were the two things. There were the other utilities,
Yeah.
infrastructure,
Right.
and then Caltrans.
And, oh, that's right.
And Caltrans is still it's up there. Oh, great, yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, and you can see, I'll get up and show you guys here. Obviously, the red line was our preferred. That was that alternative 3. That was just a straight shot. that alternative 4 here follows along Highway 1, kind of in the shoulder right there. Hopefully on the westerly side of what other utilities exist there. There's fiber optic, gas, phone, everything you can list here. And we kind of enter in here before that vehicle bridge and then head into the Washburn day use here where we kick it out here. This is a temporary, they had us illustrating here our connection where our interconnection is currently, but we actually kick that out and go straight over to there from that bore pit right there. So that's the alternative that State Parks prefers, and it looks like will be our option here, our only option.
So if we remember going back to 2 board meetings ago, Jim and I and the utility staff switched gears. We initially were asking for approval for alignment 3. But after our initial meeting with State Parks, we realized that they're really in control of where this goes. And so the board was willing to allow us all of the alternatives. Thank goodness, because then we come into our second meeting and after their discussions with environmental, this whole natural preserve is pretty much, they want off limits. And it's understandable, there would be a lot of disturbance to that area. So like Jim said, there's a couple bonuses to going down the Caltrans route. And they're gonna work with us, even setting up meetings with Caltrans and have them in attendance at Caltrans supporting us in this alignment. So it's our hope that we'll have less roadblocks to get in there. But with that flexibility the board gave us, we'll be able to move this forward a little quicker.
Okay, so what about the temporary lines that we have there now? We had talked about taking them out and reusing that pipe somewhere. So what's the situation with that?
So we plot our water line first.
Right.
And then when we go to use that wastewater line, we'd use that temporary line that we have and use that for the wastewater line as we plotted that wastewater line in, and then we'd fully remove that.
Okay.
We will not be abandoning, 3,000 linear feet of 12-inch HDPE on state park land.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Are we able to remove that?
Yeah, the only bummer with that is, once you use that line, it's a potable line right now. Once you use it for wastewater, it never goes back. Yeah.
And
I
is
don't wanna abandon it.
Mhm.
the park is okay with us for the buried lines, abandoning those in place?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't.
So our current easement will abandon in place
We'll abandon
and,
in
yeah,
place. Got it.
sign off on it.
So you're gonna probably just cut it up in sections and store it someplace.
Yeah, we'll cut it up with the longest sections that we can haul around physically and store it for maybe future use for,
Replacements, yeah.
yeah. Well, wouldn't be water main replacements, but it'd
That's
be
right,
for like,
wastewater.
for wastewater replacements or repairs or anything temporary of that nature.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So both the water and the wastewater can go in that same trench that we're gonna do along.
10-foot separation, yes.
Okay, can you put that back up?
And then I think Superintendent Arthur had a,
Okay,
So we got a perfectly good wastewater line that goes up to where we need it, and we're bypassing it or abandoning it?
yes. Yeah, because you've got a 40-year-old line and the water lines broke twice and the wastewater lines are the same material.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Just there's no need to bypass it. You just run your other line, keep the good line going.
What is the material of the other wastewater line? Is it concrete?
It's
It's
there.
AC and ductile
Yeah.
iron. And the ductile iron AC connection is usually where it's broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have to bypass it. You just run your other line and make your connection.
We would, in this case, yeah. There's just some options if you can
Right.
be.
And also, if you left it in place, you have options to reuse it in case of emergency and in case you get a broken line on the line in Caltrans.
Okay. Well, it'll be HDPE, so it'll be a seamless jointless line.
I
But,
understand,
you know.
it's a better material, but we have a functional
so
line that goes in.
They might be required to take it out.
right now we have water and wastewater line hanging under that bridge.
We do.
Okay, and where is that on here?
It's a vehicle and pedestrian bridge and it's right over the creek here. So it would be, gosh, I'm thinking.
Right where that
right
corner is,
here.
that yellow
Yeah,
tile.
About right there,
But
that's.
didn't we talk
So-
about abandoning that there?
That's what my question was,
Right.
is so we will no longer be running a pipeline under that bridge?
Correct.
Okay, that was my
Right,
question.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure
Yeah.
exactly where the bridge was on that
You know,
picture.
we're gonna kick out right there. And if you guys probably been around there and see, it's right before you make that turn up Washburn Hill that goes up to the upper campground. And that's our interconnection right there. But we're gonna go ahead and kick it out to where we wanted that connection to be on
Okay,
our property, on our side.
okay. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure because exactly where you were kicking the line out to, so.
Because then that gives us a staging area on our property, so we can take our time, spread out like we need, and not have to get a right of entry for, and a staging area and all those other things from state parks right there. So, yeah. And it gets our infrastructure off that old bridge.
Good. Any other questions? Not from the public. Do we have anybody? We still just have. Okay, are there any questions from the public on this part of the utilities report? I don't see any hands. Okay, go ahead.
Moving on some WRF topics, zero liquid discharge. It seems like the trail's gone cold on it, but it really hasn't. Global Water Innovations, will be out Wednesday, with the owner of Trevi Water Systems to do a site inspection and evaluation on what sort of materials, where the footprint's gonna go for this temporary ZLD unit, and then what kind of plumbing we're gonna need and where the electrical source and that sort of thing. So I'll have some more details for you after Wednesday and provide you guys all an update on basically what the little mobile unit that they're building now for us. So we'll look forward to that here for our June meeting, and you know, the updates and all this will always be in the GM letter updates and in our regular utility updates as well. So we're looking forward to having some light shed on that, and we are looking now at an October pilot run date.
I believe
Seems to
so.
me, yeah. So Cody's got the plant tuned in, ready to go, replacing things that need to be replaced. So yeah, we'll have a fully operational kind of pilot run. And so we'll,
So I take it that Global Water Systems got their grant.
yes. Yeah, exactly. They're actually visiting, I think, about 5 sites that day, everybody from Ventura all the way out to the valley. Well, they're gonna do 5 of these pilot projects will be occurring at the same time. So it'll be nice to kind of see what others have used or done and, you know, kind of get some tricks of the trade.
So your utilities report is on the board agenda for Thursday as well as.
Yes.
Okay, so you'll be able to.
I'll
Say what
give you
happened
some
when-
fresh updates, some real fresh updates, yeah. Stewart Street tank project is still coming along really well. We've actually made certain that we need to move that other tank and kick it out to our other property a little bit. With that, we've got a retaining wall that goes up to about 5.5 feet. That will have to be moved. So that was in an area where we hadn't done some geotechnical on, so we're having to do some geotechnical on that. So we're still on course as far as time for this on the timeline. But we have to evaluate that areas and make sure that it's suitable. It's pretty much the same land, but we just need to evaluate and make certain that what we think is true there. And just like the skate park and our Fiscalini restroom, we're doing this section 106, that's a sacred lands file search and prepare our consultation letters. We're having Rincon do this through our consultant. I think for the Fiscalini restroom, we did a lot of the section 106 ourselves, calling and reaching out to native tribes and that's all being handled by our consultant. San Simeon Well 3, I think Cody can bring us up to date on what's going on with that. I think last thing we left off with is we were waiting on the contractor submission of his bond.
And that's where we're still at right
And
now.
that's where we're at right now.
We reached out, Tristan and I reached out to him probably 2 weeks ago. Once they, waiting on the finalize the contract.
Yeah, and once he can provide that, you know, confirm his bond with us, then we'll be shovel ready and ready for installation there. And
Wasn't that the- I was gonna say,
it was,
problem with the previous
bond
contractor?
is, yes, yes, I know, it's the same old story. So hopefully it doesn't end up in the same fashion as our
Okay.
previous vendor did. So
Huh.
we're hoping not. Yeah, because we're just in the process of completing our contract for the VFD installation on the other side of that. So hoping we'll see, this be completed the next month or so. And that wraps up all of, the hot topics and hot projects we have going on here. And any guys questions you guys want to dive a little deeper into, feel free.
Any other questions? Anybody in the public on Zoom have any questions for Mr. Green on the utilities report? Seeing none? Thank you. Okay, now it's time for public comment on any item of interest within the jurisdiction of the committee, but not on the agenda item today, and future agenda items can also be suggested at this time. Does anyone wish to make any public comment on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we can move forward to the consent agenda. First on the consent agenda, we're gonna consider approving the April 8th regular meeting minutes. We do these minutes separately. Does anybody have any corrections that they see that are needed on the April 8th meeting minutes? Very good.
Oh, I would like to just make, ask a question regarding the long-term, water and storage supply development. Regarding, the task force, is there any new news on the task force for the county?
Okay, this is just approving the way the minutes are written.
Oh, I see, never mind.
Okay. Does anybody have any corrections needed on the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the April 8th regular meeting minutes as written. I'll second.
You gotta make the
You
motion.
gotta
Oh,
make a
sorry.
first.
I apologize.
Go for it.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. We have
First minutes.
I'll second.
Okay.
So sorry.
No slacking off on
Well,
the
this is what
last meeting.
happens when you know, this is my last day.
She's short time off, but it's all right. All right.
Okay, so we had a motion made by committee member Juliana Day to accept the minutes as written. The second was by committee member Steve Sieber. So I'm going to do a roll call. Ms. Hamadeh,
Aye.
Mr. Sieber,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Aye.
and Mr. Meeks.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed unanimously. Okay, now looking at the meetings of the April 5th, moving ahead here, April 15th special meeting. Are there any corrections needed on this set of minutes? Anyone see anything that needs to be changed? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written. Someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay, and who's seconding it?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes as written by committee member Mark Meeks, seconded by committee member Jim Webb. I'll go ahead and take a roll call. Mr. Meeks,
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Aye.
Mr. Sieber,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Amadei.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed unanimously. Okay, so moving on. We already did the cogen item. So we're going to go ahead and do regular business item for B, which is to receive an update from the Ad hoc Committee on Climate Change, and I had an opening background I wanted to present first before we got the report, just to kind of give a historical background on this particular topic. So in 2021, the policy committee began work on a climate change policy for Cambria. On May 26, 2022, the policy committee voted to have the then committee chair, Director Harry Farmer, bring a needs assessment to the CCSD Board of Directors for discussion and consideration of the creation of a district climate change, climate crisis policy. This needs assessment was brought before the board at the July 14th, 2022 meeting of the board. The CCSD Board of Directors assigned that task of determining the needs and parameters of a climate change policy to the Resources and Infrastructure Committee and to bring the results back to the board. The Resources and Infrastructure Committee appointed an ad hoc committee at the August 22nd, 2022 meeting. The R&I ad hoc committee consisted of myself and then committee member Michael Thomas. And this ad hoc was assigned to research other communities' existing climate policies, as well as the current and future steps the district could undertake to address climate change. In November, committee member Michael Thomas was elected to the board of directors and then could no longer participate on the R&I ad hoc committee or the committee itself. In December, R&I committee member Brad Fowles announced he was moving away from Cambria, and committee member David Pearson expressed his intent to apply for the finance committee. We no longer had a quorum, and the climate ad hoc was put on hold until after the new R&I committee members were appointed in February of 2023. At the March 23rd, 2023 meeting, our newly appointed committee members, Julie Amadei and Mark Meach, volunteered for the climate ad hoc committee, and they immediately went to work researching other communities' climate action plans. They went to climate change related meetings, and they met with Supervisor Gibson to discuss the SLO County Climate Action Plan and how the county and local policies could work together. The two committee members on the ad hoc committee, Meeks and Amadei, also immediately found a great grant opportunity from the Governor's Office of Planning and Resources for Climate Change Adaptation and Resiliency Plan, and this was a no-match grant. Our then interim general manager, utilities manager, Ray D'Enzo, recommended that we apply for that grant towards a consultant to help the district write a climate action plan, and that by having a climate action plan first, we would qualify for other grant opportunities towards projects to offset and adapt to climate change, and that a policy could be written to go along with that climate action plan. Mr. D'Enzo, with only 3 weeks to do it, put in an application for a $300,000 grant for that purpose, which passed the first round, but not the final round. This ad hoc committee diligently continued their work, and a progress report was included in the September 14th, 2023 board agenda, along with the R&I committee report. The ad hoc committee was then notified that there was a second opportunity for the climate adaptation and resiliency grant, and attended multiple workshops on the process and continued their research. This application effort is still in progress, as Mr. McElhaney and the committee has already mentioned. On April 24th, 2024, this ad hoc committee, along with myself, met with the general manager, utilities manager Green, program manager Tristan Reaper, along with water superintendent Cody Meeks and wastewater superintendent Tony Artho, to discuss all of the efforts that were being undertaken on the utilities infrastructure to be more energy efficient and to reduce greenhouse gases and carbon emissions. We also reviewed with the general manager how F&R and the admin departments were adapting to climate change. The results of all of these efforts are being presented today by the ad hoc committee, and after review and input by staff, committee members, and public attendees, we will discuss and consider to move forward this final report to the board of directors. It is on the agenda for the June 13th CCSD board meeting. So if there are any necessary changes or additions anybody would like to make to this final report, we can add those today. So that being said, I turn this over to our ad hoc committee who would like to present this item.
You go.
Okay.
You go. You lead us. Lead the way.
So, I guess I'll just, start by summarizing the summary because it gets a little wordy. Basically, this document is an update from the last document 9 months ago. And just sort of outlining some of the actions that we've taken since that, during that period or 9 month period. And my first one is the CCSD General Manager, Matt McEllery, engaging in the grant program, the ADGP grant programming, and sort of turning the focus from doing a study of the climate action plan to I feel is more important and probably a little more towards the resiliency side, and that is to study, we talked this earlier in this meeting about doing a study for evacuation routes in case of a widespread wildfire in the area. That is ongoing. We are, Mark McEllery, the General Manager McEllery is working on that. And we have I guess we have a grant writer to follow up and produce that grant. Next thing that we turn to is like, make a statement without, you know, a lot of funds. It's very difficult to make some major changes, in this environment. And, so basically the best way to try and mitigate and to reduce, greenhouse gases and, it's just basically through conservation of everything. And so that brought me to the SST program. I think everything that we're doing in the SST program, all these phases and all these projects are always with the eye towards, you know, conservation and climate change and just doing everything as clean and as clean as possible. Wastewater treatment plants continue to upgrade hardware, software, and multi-phase through that program, the SFT program. They're implementing a program to replace all of the residential water meters, which in turn gives us a lot of visibility of where water is going to and where we may be losing water, sort of a sub-metering, we get that benefit as well. And so that's going, and that would be great. That'd be great for the end users as well, because the end users have, you know, basically pretty much don't know how much they're using. And with this new AMI program, we'd be able to have an app to really just visibly see where your water is going, where you're using it. So you have a chance at, you know, saving and reducing water, which is super important for us. Also, another big initiative we've taken is during the rainy seasons, the last 2 years, we've had incredible amount of you know, above average rainfall. And during those events, the wastewater treatment plant is just getting inundated from rainwater that is infiltrating into the sanitary system, and it's just completely, you know, flooding them out. And they spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of energy pumping water and going through the whole process again, the whole wastewater process again. So they're looking for ways to mitigate that infiltration from rainwater by raising manholes that are below grade and replacing manholes that are gasketed, or there's gas type of a manhole that keep water from infiltrating into that. That's actually a big thing. They're also, I guess, mostly through the SST program, I believe, they are installing VFD drives on most of the major equipment. I would imagine pumps as well, which is a big energy saver for us. So there's a lot going on kind of in the background, and kind of like as we need to do things, we are upgrading, and it's sort of kind of an organic type of process, if you will. So that's just been going on. Let's see what else we have here. Water saving devices, of course, on all public buildings, lighting, LED lighting, constantly reviewing our drought contingency plans. And I guess we continue to educate and re-educate the public and on the, you know, the importance of conserving mostly water in our, but water has to be pumped and pumps run off electricity. So it all is all connected to climate change and just basically reducing all of our demands. I have a list of things here that we could do as recommendations to improve firefighting capacities. I think that's like number one. Improving our water distribution systems, storage tanks, which we have, as we all know, we have a program going on now to improve our Stewart's Street tanks, clear underbrush and understories, replace outdated equipment, fire department, and promote and expand public transportation. Also very big. We don't know because we haven't really done a climate change or climate action plan to really pinpoint where we are emitting or where we are, you know, emitting greenhouse gases, but everybody pretty much knows that, you know, it's all about transportation. After reviewing most city in the county, their climate action plans, the biggest part of their emissions and their greenhouse gases is through vehicles. And it's usually private parties and Cambria is probably not going to be too much different to that, given that we are pretty much we have a robust tourist economy here in the town, especially in the summer months. So promoting and expanding public transportation, we believe is important. To, as we talked about, enact ways of reducing power consumption, and basically raise awareness, promote conservation in the tourist areas, you know, up and down Moonstone Beach, utilize public service announcements on the radio while we are in our tourist season. Establish, and this one I think is important as well, establish a climate action plan committee, a separate committee for climate action plan. We can set goals, promote and monitor actions of improving conservation and making changes. Be active in identifying and applying for grants and to fund other actions that we need. This biomass generator is a good example. Become active in climate change community and continue to educate ourselves on current technologies and so on and so forth. That's basically it.
Okay, Ms. Amadei, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, only because we've tag teamed on this and this has been an effort. You know, it's hard to put together a little summary in the sense of trying to hit all the areas because we haven't had an action plan. And we all know that you have to have the data in order to, you know, be able to draw from the data. And so I think this grant is a really wonderful way to push in a direction to where at least we're focused in on one thing that we might be able to get. I struggle for paying for consultants. I'm just gonna say that publicly. Because we're paying for words, but we need the words in order to have the data. So I want to thank Mark because I feel like this has been such a fun journey and about
Yes,
learning more
yes.
about the
Really
concerns of the
enjoyed
climate.
working with you, Julie.
Thank you. And we've got a lot to learn as a community. I think we just all need to make a conscious effort. But I know as a team, we were at least trying to put a summary together to say, here's a footprint. It's not concrete. It's just at least something to start with.
Yeah.
So hopefully it
It's a
helps.
start.
It's a start. You got to start somewhere.
Okay. I have a couple of suggestions, a couple of edits here, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And by the way, our general manager's name is McElhaney.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so
It's
sorry.
not, I mean.
It sounds better the way you said it, so I think.
McElroy.
Whatever.
When I was in Marine Corps boot camp in 1998, the Macarena had just come out. So you can imagine what my drill instructors did
Oh, yeah.
for 4 months.
I'm so sorry. My apologies.
I'm not perfectly okay. Thank you.
Okay, so on page 13, the summary, The climate change policy document that we were forwarded to work from the policy committee was dated December 27th, 2021.
Oh,
Okay, and Miss
Oh,
Amade's
yeah.
first name is misspelled.
See, now we're,
She's Juki like the sewing machine, and it should be Julie.
now you should.
Now you get your own.
That's all right. It's okay.
Second that.
We need to fix it though.
Okay,
Chucky Macarena.
Yeah. There's a lot going on for me.
okay. And if you don't mind, on page 15, the first bullet point at the bottom of the page, you start out talking about Cambria's water department, but the first bullet point is addressing something from the wastewater
yeah,
department. So can we move that bullet point over to the next page, where you talk about the wastewater treatment plant?
sure.
Is that okay? Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
Just point out that there's a typo in the spelling of Santa Cruz on page 14.
Page
And
14.
you spelled the town's name, and there's a typo on page 16.
Oh, I caught that. Actually, that's interesting. That
Can we see
document
that again?
didn't have that.
That's right, it's CRUC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Monterey is not correct.
Oh, yep, one R, isn't it?
Unless from Mexico.
Oh, is it 2 R's in Mexico? Oh,
Monterey?
There's two R's in the Monterey mix.
Oh, but our
But we're not
Monterey.
in that,
only
just
got
saying
one.
Monterey.
Okay, you're killing me. All right, here we go.
Just trying to confuse you, Joe.
Yeah, it's all right.
You're not getting out of here easy today.
There's one other thing I found, but I didn't make a note.
Page 16, it's under recommendations, it says intact ways.
Yeah.
It should be inact ways.
Where are you?
Third recommendation down.
Third bullet
page
on
16.
recommendations.
Enact.
Oh,
That's
in
wrong.
pathways? Okay.
It's on page 14.
Oh, that's the old one.
Yeah.
So there's two pieces being resubmitted. I mean, one is
That's the old one.
our document summary from the beginning and then the newest one. So
Yeah.
was there anything else in the climate change planning?
Okay, so when we had our ad hoc committee meeting with all of staff, I also handed out some information on the SLO County municipal codes and the San Luis Obispo municipal codes. Municipal code 17.70.100 was about lighting and night sky preservation. Do we want to put a link to that lighting municipal code as well as the county municipal code on outdoor lighting, all outdoor lighting? Do we want to put the links to those?
It can't hurt. I mean, we're talking about limiting outdoor lighting in residential areas.
Okay, so the county one it directs all outdoor lighting, and the San Luis Obispo city one talks about lighting and night sky preservations, but those would both be good documents for the policy committee to look at as they create their policy for the board.
What was the section again that you
Okay,
cited?
so San Luis Obispo municipal code is 17.70.100, lighting and night sky preservation. And this is mainly addressing the residential areas. The county code is 23.04.320, and that addresses all outdoor lighting.
Outdoor lighting?
Yeah, and also in your original report, you had a link to the Climate Wise report on climate change planning in San Luis Obispo. Do you want to go ahead and add that link again? So that the policy committee can review that as they write their policy? Because I'm assuming that once your reports go to the board and we are having discussion and consideration of these reports, the next action will most likely be for the board to forward this back to the policy committee to write a policy on climate change.
Okay, so the second link, you're going a little quick for me. The second link was for be,
Are you talking about the county code?
Yeah.
It was 23.04.320 on outdoor lighting, and that addressed the lighting, all outdoor lighting. Okay, and then we had a link in there for a climate-wise report for climate change planning in San Luis Obispo.
finalized,
Yeah, and I'll give you that link again, but that was in your original report.
yeah,
So we want to put that back in.
okay.
And it's, you want the link? It's HTTPS colon slash of 2 forward slashes climatewise.org/project/San Luis Obispo. I'll send that to you.
I have it, yeah,
You've got it probably.
I'll have it, soon.
Okay. So,
Okay,
so
do those changes.
One other
go ahead.
question, on page 14, under recommendations, the second bullet's hire a professional grant writer. Mr. McElhaney, do we have a professional grant writer under contract now, don't we?
We do.
We might want to change that then just to apply for grants using a professional grant writer. I don't think it's a recommendation that we want to hire a new one. Yeah.
So how do you want to word that?
Apply for grants using a professional grant writer, something like that.
Fine, or professional
Because-
grant writer,
Yeah.
funding and potential to make changes.
I guess the only caveat would be, depending on funding, budget, things change year to year.
Yeah.
So we're gonna budget this next year a little more money towards grant writing.
Okay.
Because we only had
Little
like
smidgen.
60,000 or something.
And Jim's really greedy and he's
He's
really
taking
taking.
it.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of projects that need funding, so yeah. If you put them in my office, you know, it's getting done first. Just saying.
Do you want to say utilize the district's grant writer?
Yeah,
How
mine
do you want-
hasn't.
Utilize,
The money.
Utilize.
Utilize
Yes,
professional grant
utilize.
writer.
Yeah.
Because the budget's gonna allow for some more funding in this area.
That's what we're aiming for next year is to bolster that budget.
And we're coming up on a new fiscal year in 6 weeks, so.
Yeah. fast.
We figured the ROI on it, we can secure a couple of grants with more than cover.
Oh, yeah.
that.
Once you get 1 grant, it pays well for
Okay,
itself, so.
this is a great job, and this will end the ad hoc committee since you're losing a member. So this will finalize.
I thought you said it was going to pros.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Oh,
kidding, I'm sorry.
look how that gets handed off to pros.
So, but throughout, the responsibility of the Resource and
Yes.
Infrastructure Committee is
Yeah.
making our infrastructure as energy efficient and environmentally efficient as possible. So as we review all the projects that come before R&I, we will continue to do our best to make sure that we are doing what we can to adapt to climate change. It's just that the ad hoc committee assignment itself is complete. Mainly because you're missing a committee member.
Exactly.
Now, if I can, is it possible for me to get these reports with these little changes back in time to give them to Haley on Monday, because I'm leaving the country and she has to get them for the agenda?
Yes, I'll give them to you by the end of the week.
Okay, thank you.
Or just
Um,
copy here and you both.
okay, does anyone have any other comments? Anybody on Zoom have any questions or comments on this item?
Putting to sleep.
We didn't put, oh, Mr. Dujek.
Great work, great work.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, greatly appreciated. And I know you two worked very hard. You did so much
We
research.
did. We
You
worked
did.
really hard.
Well, you reviewed everyone else's climate action
Yeah,
plans.
yeah.
You talked to Supervisor Gibson. You did all of those workshops on the grant. You went to climate meetings from other communities. I mean, you did a lot of work on this and
Thank you.
it is greatly appreciated.
It was fun. Thank
We
you.
learned a lot.
Yeah, we did learn a
Those,
lot. That's
Grant meetings.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just also very interesting to learn what other people are doing.
Mhm.
And of course, early on, you mentioned that it's difficult when we're in a smaller community and we don't have the funding. I mean, you look at the county of SLO and how robust their climate action plan is, not just recommendations. We're just in a
Yeah.
very different environment here, so
And even Morro Bay, I mean, their climate
Yes.
action plan, what was it, over 600 pages
Yes,
long?
Morro Bay has a very robust,
Yeah, we're all, they really got it going on.
so again, it's a start.
Okay, so I need to take a vote. I need a motion to consider forwarding this report to the Board of Directors for review and discussion and consideration. So can I have a motion?
I'll second motion.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Williams to go ahead and forward this report with the
I'll say
changes
as amended.
as amended to the Board of Directors for their discussion and consideration. And that motion was seconded by Committee Member Meeks. So I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call. Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Meeks,
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Aye.
Mr. Seaver,
Aye.
and Ms. Amaday.
Ah,
Okay, unanimously approved. And thank you so much for all your hard work. Okay, so next we're going to receive a presentation on the advanced clean fleet and regulations and discuss and consider forwarding the recommendation to the Board of Directors. You are on, Mr. Green. Or-
Actually, I'm back to start.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of background. The California Air Resources Board has been working on something to promote the electrification of fleets all across California. I mean, most of the focus has been on the high priorities, so the large fleets, the other large government fleets, the companies operating in multiple states that happen to operate in California, the dryage fleets, which is vehicles leaving the port with containers on the backs going to the various areas. But we, of course, as a government agency, fall under this as well. And so they were pushing forward fleet electrification. So starting in January of this year, now every other vehicle we buy with a gross vehicle weight of over 8,500 pounds must be an electric vehicle. Now, these electric vehicles are going to require charging infrastructure. And currently the only charger that we have is the one out in front of the Betts home. And that costs even the CSD money to use. So in order to facilitate, and this is an ongoing thing, as the years go on, eventually by 2027, we'll be required to 100% of the vehicles we buy that are over 8,500 pounds will be required to be electric. And we're not mandated to be retiring vehicles, unlike some of the larger fleets. They're going to have to be forced to retire. We're not under that obligation, but our trucks will wear out. And at some point, it will cost more to repair them than it will be to just buy the new electric vehicle. Again, these electric vehicles need charging. We don't currently have much in the way of charging infrastructure. So until June 30th, 2024, PG&E is offering an incentive program where they help us along this path to electrification. And how that works is we sign up with them and they will pay for everything up to the meter. Normally, that's a charge that must be borne by the person installing a new electrical service. In this case, to incentivize electrical adoption, they are offering to pay for that as well. So then we get an extra electric meter, and then from that electric meter, we would then install chargers.
You're talking about a whole separate service just for that.
Correct, and that's so PG&E can separate. So one of the things PG&E is after is with this data, with this program is they're after the data. They want to know what's going to happen in 3 years when everybody's required to, when all the the government fleets, the high priority and the large fleets are going to require to go all electric. The strain on their grid's going to be, yeah, exactly. It's going to be dramatic. So the more data they can get, the sooner they can get it, the more they can plan for that eventuality. So that's why they'd like us to have a separate meter for that so that they can track how we're using the vehicles. And part of our being involved in that program would be, we would agree to share that data with PG&E.
Which is a 10-year commitment.
Right.
So there's really no cost for us to go from switchgear or from the transformer to our switchgear. We pay for the installation from that switchgear to the actual charging device itself. That would be on us. Matt and I have been working with, we used to be Ashley Gold List at SLO County APCD. I forget the gentleman's name who's replaced him, but there's some matching grants and so forth that would help fund not only charger purchase, physical installation labor, and I don't know if it would cover some of the permitting costs, but we could get a lot of that other side of the switchgear cost covered.
So the utilities offering to pay for basically a new service just for charging.
Right.
So that would include the meter, the breaker, the
Yes.
main panel,
Yes.
everything but the chargers and the wiring going to.
Correct. Yeah.
That's a pretty good deal.
But it ends June 30th, 2024. So I know we've talked about this before, but we think it's a really good program. You do have to commit to buying 2 vehicles in 5 years, but you only need to have an invoice or commitment for 1 vehicle purchase right now
Correct. I believe
to
that-
take
yeah.
advantage of this offer.
And there's a little bit of mismatch between, and this is where we're gonna get questions from the board of directors, especially. Why are we looking at the Lightning, the F-150 Ford Lightning? So, but it's got a vehicle, that one's only weighs just over 6,000 pounds. One of the reasons is there's really are no good 800 to 8,500 pound vehicle options in the electric at the moment. But because the Ford Lightning works under their program, we can buy 2 of those over 5 years, along with the chargers for those. We can start getting our charging infrastructure built, so that when we were required to buy the heavier vehicles, we have a place to charge them already built. That's been, partially grant funded. Those grants are gonna dry up as more people are being pushed into this regulation. So the early adopters are gonna be the ones who get the free money.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then again, we would then have 2 electric vehicles for use by the water and wastewater operators.
I think historically, as a district, we've thought about things ahead of time, but never maybe had the finances to make it feasible and pull it off. This is really a low investment grade for us initially. And I think obviously we see the benefits. This fits into the climate action plan. This would be beneficial for like the on-call operators. It's a light duty truck, but it's definitely heavy duty enough to store tools and all the keys, you get street keys and everything you need for emergency response. And I think it'd be something we should take advantage of with PG&E right now, because that's a huge cost for us right now. And I know we're in the middle of this PG&E program, and this PG&E program also doesn't work with a lot of other rebates, but it would with that SLO County match and funding. So I think we paired up some funding that would make this really feasible and affordable for us. And I think it's the right thing to do as a district for us as well.
Would the public be able to use these chargers if they weren't being used by the vehicle?
So technically, they would be if we're receiving funding from SLO County APCD, we'd have to make them available for public, but they'd be behind our gate at the wastewater plant which is authorized personnel only. But if somebody from the public had an emergency where they needed to charge, I mean, we could make that available to them certainly. But a primary function is for utilities vehicles.
Okay, you said you have to have an invoice, at least have an invoice for 1 or 2 trucks. Are we talking about going ahead and buying it 1 truck once this is installed?
So it's about a 6-month window to receive that for us, it would just be like a commitment to an invoice.
Okay.
So we have a recent proposal for about $54,000 for a Pro, which I think is pretty good. About a year or so ago, they were about twice that. And so, I mean, Derek can tell us if he likes his and.
Yeah, I do.
So, yeah.
And you get power with it when if you need to go out on a jet,
Yes.
the power comes with it.
And I was gonna say that power right now for the water and wastewater operators is by suitcase generator,
Yeah.
which is a very polluting in terms of pound of pollutants per kilowatt hour you're getting out. It's about as bad as you can get these days. So with the Pro, you'd have the ability to plug in and not have to need.
Run power tools or lighting, because we all know leaks only happen at weekends and at nights. So it'd be nice to roll up to an emergency site and just plug in a light
I
and.
thought they only did it on holidays.
And that too, yeah,
That's a popular one.
yeah.
Yeah, so you can plug directly into the
Right.
truck.
Yeah,
for-
yeah,
oh,
yeah, you get
That's
directly
cool.
Yeah.
Power tools,
Decent
grill.
power.
You could actually probably run a house off of it for some. you want,
I think that's what they're advertising,
They are.
the marketing for that.
Depending on, of course.
We would need something that heavy duty, but
Yeah.
the appeal of that is that you'd have that option on
Yeah.
site to do that.
And then the life cycle cost, as you're pointing out in this analysis, is pretty good, $134,000 savings.
Yeah.
You know, that's a
Mhm.
truck right there.
It is, indeed. It honestly pays for itself.
Yeah, yeah.
In the long run. And then when you think about, the carbon footprint that you remove and so
Right.
forth, so.
So what happens if you're out at the job site and you're not paying attention to your battery charge and it goes dead on you? What do you do then?
So, excellent question. So another reason to get to it, start adopting this and getting is to have the operators get experience with running electric vehicles. So they can pay attention to that, keep that in the back of their mind, keep the parasitic loads to a minimum.
Yeah.
And once you're actually.
This
up and running,
creates a
and-
good.
I imagine there's plenty of warnings too.
Yeah, I imagine
There
there
is
would be plenty of warnings.
there is
Probably-
Pretty hard to do.
and look-
There is a setting on it where it will turn off your power outlets
Yes.
before you get too low.
Yes.
There.
You could
Yeah.
probably set that brush on
Kind of
You
a
can
fifty
set-
percent.
yeah.
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 It's not much different than running out of gas.
No, not any different than running out of gas. And luckily Cambria is a small place. You could get back to the plant with, only a couple miles of range remaining, so.
Okay, so, but these are going to be used for the on-call operators probably.
Absolutely would be their.
So
first
they would
choice.
need to make sure they have them fully charged before they take them home for the weekend while they're on call.
Right,
Okay,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
will you require that they put in some kind of a charger at their home or have access to some?
We
kind
would
of
not,
a-
I don't think that'd be necessary. You get, what, 200 miles of range?
Depending on the size, yeah.
Depending on the load or so much, but
Yeah.
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 70 or so, 280 on mine, and
Oh, wow.
and you can charge it overnight. If you plug it in overnight, it'll be full. So they can charge it and be
On
ready
a
to go.
fast charger or?
That's a level 2?
On a level 2, yeah,
Okay.
on level 2 charger.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to Karen's point, if they take them home, they're taking them home. So they're
The
gonna,
on-call operators are
Right.
taking them home, but if they have them fully charged before they leave here, then I would think it
Shouldn't be a
would be a
problem.
problem.
Should make be able to
Yeah.
make a round
Yeah.
trip,
Right.
60-mile round trip, no problem.
And we'd have a level 3 or greater charger, and that's what we're looking at.
Oh,
So I mean, we're talking less than a 4-hour full charge time.
yeah.
So it'd be something that, and I've had an EV since 2017, so they give you 60 miles at least ahead of, again, well, they'll start shutting down air conditioning and your stereo, so you can get that final 20 miles if
You're
you've
running like
forgotten to charge before you leave. So, I mean, you'll have plenty of heads up, you'd be able to make it back to the plant.
And again, this would also give operators
Not yet.
practice using electric vehicles, so.
Well, you gotta do it anyway. Sooner or later, we gotta do
Right,
it.
the
Yeah,
regulations.
you really don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Right.
So if we wait till the last minute and we spend an extra 60 grand on doing this ourselves, or we get ahead of it and
Yeah.
take advantage of
So you're gonna install a level 3 charger?
it. We probably do.
2 level 3, yeah.
We're,
You
again,
should
we're
make them,
thinking
you
to the
should make
future.
them publicly available, then I will.
We
vote on
should,
that.
we should. I'm seeing a DW on the parking space. All right, okay. Okay.
So if we approve forwarding this to the board, will it be able to get on the agenda in time for them to take advantage of that June 30th deadline?
Be tight.
That'd be tight. We have one next Thursday to reintroduce, or is this our last regular?
Are we talking about one meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, that agenda's already been posted, so there's no amending that one. So the earliest would be the June 7th or like June 7th, 13th.
13.
13th.
So I can reach out to Tim O'Neill from PG&E in the meantime, say we have, some solid cooperation from our community, our citizens committee, and then say it's on the board agenda for here. Is that gonna be enough time to, come up? And they're 6 months out from scheduling this from the transformer to the switch gear and so forth. So of course, as further as we go into this, the longer we'll have to wait for installation and to break ground, but
And if there's a special meeting between now and 13th, it could be talked about.
great.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, we probably will have a special meeting between now and. Okay,
Fingers crossed.
okay. Does anybody else on the committee have any other questions? Anybody in the public? Anyone on Zoom? Can you see the Zoom participants?
Yes. Mrs. Morse.
Okay, Mrs. Larson, go ahead.
Hello, I am actually a person that specializes in doing EV chargers for fleets and helping fleets transition to electric vehicles. And I just want to let you know, I love Tim O'Neill, but I've been working with him for years on getting chargers at some of my fleets. And so it's not even a 6 months process, it's closer to a 2-year process. So starting early is ideal. And there are a lot of grants available for transitioning the fleet vehicles over to electric, as well as, you know, like the F-150s are a lot of different options out there. And so I just wanted to make you aware of that. And then as far as ordering the vehicle, all you need is a purchase agreement, because literally going to be years. And it doesn't, you know, you don't have to get that vehicle. You can always change vehicles or change your mind as they continue to improve with time. The electric vehicles do. And I love, Mr. Green, that you're a big EV fan like me.
Thank you. Yes. I'm on my second one, so
Thank you very much.
thank you, Gina.
Do we have any other public comment?
No.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion? Let me find the wording here.
To adjourn?
Not yet. But fine with the request. It's not time to adjourn yet.
I know, I thought we were progressing pretty well. through this.
Okay, so I'm asking for a motion to recommend to the Board of Directors that the CCSD apply for PG&E's program and commit to installing a minimum of 1 program compliant charger, purchasing a minimum of 2 program compliant EVs, and agree to the terms listed in the funding requirements section above. Does that cover it? Okay, does someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by committee member Meeks, seconded by committee member Amadei. Okay, taking a roll call, Mr. Meeks,
Aye.
Ms. Amadei,
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Aye.
Mr. Seaver,
Aye.
and Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Okay, so it's unanimous. Great, sounds like a great project. Okay, so moving on to future agenda items. My understanding that we already have for June, the annual water supply and demand assessment,
Correct.
a discussion regarding the possible transfer of the county-owned USGS San Simeon stream gauge to the district, and consideration of an arrangement to work with Creeklands Conservancy on off-stream storage and water supply enhancement. Is there any other suggestions for future agenda items for June?
Well, just it's critical on the grant because we're gonna be hitting a deadline. So obviously another report on the grant.
Yeah, we'll report because you will have already
Mhm.
submitted it by the
Yeah.
next R&I meeting. So we'll need a report on the grant. Yeah. Okay.
But I'm gonna stay close on the grant, even though I'm not gonna be at the meeting. Want to see us successful with it.
Okay, is there anything else?
And then July will be source 1, hopefully proposal, and then the aquifer finding. Magnet, yeah.
Source, yeah, the source global panels were report will probably be in July's agenda.
Yeah, we're talking about July.
Okay.
And the aquifer finding the geomagnetic survey, is that what it's called?
Geophysics, yeah.
Okay.
And we'll get an update on the zero liquid discharge in June, then hopefully.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Can we just get
That would be
something with the
exciting.
mining rod?
Anything else?
Yeah, don't start.
You got time to figure out July.
Yeah, we gotta.
Okay, and Source Global is gonna give you an idea of what it would cost to do the area we're talking about with solar hydro panels.
Correct.
And
They're gonna scale it up in like, I think that we talked about 1,000 panel increments.
okay, and you
to
said
see how that.
you said that they would be willing to come to the meeting to do a presentation.
And they also, they're very much tied in with grants with these things. They're really, they really help you with, you know, funding and things like that. So they got a whole team that does that, so.
Okay.
I would
Okay,
call them.
thank you. If there's nothing else, I can't see the clock. What is the time, Mr. Williams?
I have 3:40.
Okay, if no one has any objections, it's 3:40 and I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
Perfect.
And please feel free to have some coffee and cookies.
Thank you for bringing it.
Thanks, everybody.
You should